a part of it. Our next guest is a friend, and we are delighted to have her join us as well. Sarah Friar is the CEO of Nextdoor, and I have this app and I love it. So let me just admit to being a fangirl and a real advocate right out of the gate. But prior to Nextdoor, she was the CFO of Square, and she led their IPO. Love smart women. She sits on the boards of Walmart and Slack, and she's also a co-founder of Ladies Who Launch, a nonprofit that empowers women entrepreneurs. And I just got to say, you're a bad girl, Sarah Friar, and I love what you are doing and what you have done. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's all done with great teams. As everyone knows, you get to stand in front, but it's a heck of a lot of people doing a lot of work in the background.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, too, for your passion for working with Operation Hope and all the financial literacy work and economic empowerment work that we are doing. I'm here with our fearless leader, the founder and chairman and CEO,
Sarah.
John Bryant. And I know you know this guy, right?
Yeah, we know each other a little bit. Yeah, so
Just a little bit.
So, and you know, I keep saying he's my friend. This is what we want.
It's all in the family.
This is what the world needs. My chief of staff yesterday, Rachel Duff, was saying that if you had a message for this forum is, can't we just be neighbors again?
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, that's the whole theme of this. Like, aren't we exhausted from fighting and throwing rocks at each other and insult? I mean, it's just exhausting. It doesn't produce anything. Like, blaming your neighbor doesn't make you any wealthier, right? She said,
just makes you more stressed.
Yeah. Can't we just be neighbors again? Of course, that's quite appropriate for Nextdoor, but let me back up because, so when I say somebody's my friend, I mean it. And that doesn't mean we agree on everything, but it means we have a conversation about it. We have a relationship, and with relationship capital, all things are possible. Because relationship capital is how the world works. We have to all expand our relationship capital. And Sarah, again, people are, to me, revealed in how they behave behind closed doors when they have no interest. Sarah was, at this point, at Square, and I was trying to get Jack Dorsey to speak at our forum, and I sent a note to Jack Dorsey's founder of Twitter and founder of Square, copied her. Just, I copied her and some other people. Didn't expect her to do anything, just wanted her to know. She sends back and says, what did Jack say? Well, Jack hasn't responded yet. Probably went to his spam folder too, right? She says, well, Jack should do this. Jack will love you. Jack should, okay, Sarah, relax. So give me a couple of days. Okay, Sarah. So I go about my business. About 4 days later, did Jack respond yet? Well, no, not yet, Sarah. But I'm sure about a week later.
Sarah.
About
a
week later, I'm working on this. This looks good. What people see is that Jack Dorsey showed up. He spoke. I have now this good relationship with him. But that didn't come because I'm smart and intelligent and have the right credentials and gave him the right presentation deck. No, that's not the way the world works. That's part of the way the world works. If you have the credentials, you've got to be smart. You can't fake it, the competency level. But it also took somebody staking you. And Sarah said, whatever she said to Jack, this is worth your investment, or if you don't, he'll keep bugging you. And Jack showed up, and so he expanded the circle, right? That was the first indication of her character. Didn't want anything from it. Didn't need anything from it. Wasn't speaking that year. She did it because it was the right thing to do. She then takes this transition. She calls me. She wants some advice about this moment we're in. Doesn't have to call. She's a smart lady. She knows she's not lacking in self-confidence or belief. But she listened. And then we have a moment where she says, basically check your email. And her husband had made an unsolicited 6-figure commitment to Operation Hope.
Wow.
No questions asked. Then the next week, I called her and said, I think your accountant made a mistake. There's a second contribution for the same amount. She said, no, we intended to do that. We just figured that whatever we did, we should double down on it. I'm like, I've never met anybody quite like this person before. And
what did I tell you about women leaders?
It does say something about women leaders, and they have this. No, it's serious. They have this texture and this context that a man may may not miss, but it's more likely a man's going to miss it because a man is more of a left brain, analytical thinker, whereas women are more contextual. They've got that right brain, that soul, that heart. Women are the only ones who can create, will give birth. So without women, there'd be less men. And so, but I think that this umbilical cord, this
solve the problem. Yeah, sorry.
Well, actually, we recognize that you have both. You're thinking with your right brain and your left brain based on what you've done in your life, the numbers, the analytics, the IPO, all of that.
There's no IPO. No, there's no. Well, I'm sorry. You just want square.
Previously, there was an IPO. That is a big deal.
That's a big deal, yeah.
And women sitting on boards, so we are often told we only have a left brain, and we can only contextualize, and we can and what the point I'm making, and Sarah's my example, is that she's done both.
Yeah, the right brain is creative and aspirational and warm. That's what women tend to get credit for. The left brain, the analytical side, they tend to not get so much credit for, and people tend to feel they have to do one or the other. And we'd like to think you can, to quote, I think Dan Shulman said, no, it's Bill Daley, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I am proud to say that, just full disclosure, I've agreed to join the Nextdoor board of directors. I'm honored to be on the board along with another bright light I'm sure Sarah will talk about. Sarah, I think that Nextdoor is the largest social network of neighborhoods in the world. In 11 countries, and 1 in 4 people in America use it. But I take this much more personally. I think at a time where Republicans and Democrats aren't getting along, and blacks and white people are trying to figure out a new relationship, you don't get to pick who your neighbor is. And that's an opportunity for a new relationship. And I just wonder if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had Nextdoor in 1960, how different the world would be. If he had the Nextdoor app or the Nextdoor network as an opportunity, how different would the world be today? Have you ever thought about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Like the minute you said that to me a little while ago at an event we did in Atlanta, actually, around the table, talking at the time actually about food insecurity. But I remember leaving that meeting, and you turned to everyone in the room and said that phrase and said, you should be running out of here to get your constituents, get the people you care about onto this platform, because it's exactly right. And you both talked about this importance of neighbors. We actually want to turn neighbor from a noun, so from a person that lives close to you or lives beside you, into a verb.
Right.
Yeah. Go neighbor. What does it mean to neighbor? Community is capital. It's another great phrase. And when you think about your community, don't just think about the residents, the neighbors. Think about the local businesses. They need your help so much right now, and it's neighbors stepping up and staking them. I'm going to use a John phrase here. That's what's going to get them through. It's the local, it's the mayor, it's the people who are involved civically, right? These are actually grassroots how things get done and changed in communities. They don't happen at the top down. Like very little actually gets done from the top down, as we all know. It's a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And what we want to see is grassroots neighboring. Go out into your communities, and how are you going to make your communities better? And we want to do that around the world.
You know, Sarah, that's fascinating, because what I've noticed in my neighborhood is during the pandemic, people are really not only on your platform, but your platform, as the kids would say, has blown up. Like people are using it like crazy. And are you seeing that? How has Nextdoor been used, or do you all have analytics or data around how it's been used in response to what's happening during the pandemic, during the social unrest? I know we are helping seniors who are shut in, or people who are immunocompromised and can't go out during the pandemic. What are you all seeing on the platform?
Yeah, so it's exactly right. So when we went from February into March, we saw our daily active members go up 80%. So effectively almost double.
Wow.
And it started, what was really amazing to watch was it started in Italy. It kind of spread into France. It effectively followed the pandemic. It went to the UK. You see it come across the pond, as they say, into the U.S. My Australian country manager was a little skeptical. She's like, we're a great big island. We probably won't have to deal with this. And they were effectively the tail of the dog. But it came, all around the world. what we saw first was kind of what you're talking about, this want to help. And we see this all the time in moments of crisis. It's a very human reaction that if you're not per se being hit by the crisis, the thing you want to do is get back some agency in your life and help. So you put that hand out to help someone up. We saw it in Houston when Hurricane Harvey hit. We have definitely seen it through the pandemic. I would say we're living through 3 crises, though, right? So we've had a health crisis, a financial crisis, right? If you're a local business, forget about what the stock market is doing.
Right.
If you're a local business, you're in crisis right now, right? I just looked at stats around our old office. I call it our old office because we all have been there for 8 months.
Right.
88% of the local businesses around that office are out of business right now. So that is a financial crisis.
Yeah.
Because they were feeding off of the support
of the people in the building.
People in the building.
Yeah.
Food traffic and foot traffic, which is what I was actually going to say, but it's really food traffic.
Right.
And then the third crisis is this crisis of what's going on from a social perspective.
Sure.
Right. George Floyd murder, the Black Lives Matter finally coming to the forefront. John and I have talked a lot about this need to bring communities together. And I think all 3 crises have kind of waved across the platform. The great thing is neighbors have never been more willing to help. They've never seen their neighbors matter more. And we think that won't change. We think that is a defining moment in the world, actually, that this rise of local is here to stay.
Yeah, 2 other things I would mention, then I'm going to turn it back over to John because I know he's got some really specific questions he wants to ask about the work that we are all doing together. Is I am seeing people introduce themselves as they're coming into the community, which it's the old-fashioned bring a loaf of bread to someone's front door, which no one can do that right now, nor have I seen it done in the last 20 years of living, but I am seeing people introduce themselves on the platform. So kudos for that as well. And lastly, I am now seeing people invite one another to go vote on the platform and giving directions here in Atlanta, our home city and headquarters for Operation Hope. State Farm Arena, we had Grant Hill on earlier, who's one of the co-owners of the Hawks, and I think Tony Ressler will be on later today, opened their arena even before the NBA said we're going to do this, across the league. And so I took some seniors this past Sunday, but I want to tell you that people on your platform told me exactly where to go, where to park, what time to go. It was really informative. So this is the latest wave. It was help your neighbor, bring food, pick up medicine. Now it's how can we be engaged civically and civilly, frankly.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
And one thing we dropped on our map was a lot of people to register to vote needed to print off materials.
That's right.
And we told people if you have a printer in your house, you can drop a pin on this map so someone knows they can show up to your house to get something printed. And you know where that idea came from?
Where?
That came from France, where we saw parents offering to print school materials for parents who might not have a printer at home for their kids. So we were able to take a best practice or an idea from one country and bring it here because, of course, voter registration and now letting people go vote, that's not partisan. We're not taking sides, right? We represent the United States. But we do think that democracy works when people are enabled to vote, right? That is at the soul of a democracy.
Très bien, très bien.
I had another, Lisa, sort of crazy thought just sitting here listening to this conversation. Oh, by the way, I want to acknowledge Andrew Wisham, the other board member who newly came on the board of Nextdoor, former executive with Oprah Winfrey, actually, is brilliant. This moment we're in, this 400-year-old social justice reckoning with Black America, the police piece, which I think is a knock-on effect of social injustice, is not the issue itself, it's the knock-on effect, how we are policed. All this stuff about defund the police, it's really just bad marketing. Like, they don't really mean like, let's not have any police. They mean the police are being asked to do 28 different jobs.
That's right.
Right? And they shouldn't be a psychologist and a mental health professional and coming and resolving your emotional disputes and your husband and wife are arguing.
No, it was catchy. It's not compelling.
It's catchy but not compelling. And what we're really saying is reallocate
That's right.
And let's let the police do their job. Let's get them better trained, get them some cameras. But also let's do mental health professionals. And what hit me in talking about this is that Nextdoor, when I was growing up in Compton, California, in South Central LA, they had something called community-based policing. Community policing. And the beautiful part about that was if you were a police officer walking down the street everywhere, you got to know everybody. So right now, if you're in a police car, if somebody's talking to you, you're snitching. You're giving up information. Yeah. Now you're being targeted. But if the police officer is in the neighborhood all the time, even living in the neighborhood maybe, and hey, that's my neighbor.
They're part of the fabric.
Now, it's creating the fabric, but also nobody knows whether you're saying hello or telling them about a bad guy around the corner who needs to be taken care of. My point here is that it seems like Nextdoor could play an incredible role at scale in enhancing dignified community-based policing through information sharing, through coalition building, by making neighborhoods safer, which they're doing already, but maybe it's more intentional in zip codes where this is a cultural challenge. This leads me to my larger question. I mean, when I first heard about Nextdoor, I thought it was a nonprofit. Their vibe was so altruistic. I thought they were a nonprofit. Obviously, now I know they are a for-profit company and a very smart one at that. What is your business plan? Does it speak to just the bottom line, or is there a mission attached to it? Is it led by that mission? What is that mission? And do you see an opportunity here for Nextdoor to play a role in doing good here and around the world? If so, how?
Yeah, so I mean, we fundamentally believe you can do well and do good at the same time. Your point is well taken. We're not a nonprofit. We are a business.
Exactly.
And to me, where those things come together is when you can find a purpose that inspires you, inspires all your employees, inspires then all of the stakeholders, right? Dan Schulman was just on talking about the business roundtable and stakeholder value. We want to have a purpose that inspires everyone in our community. So our purpose is to cultivate a kinder world. Who doesn't want more kindness, where everyone is a neighborhood to rely on. But in doing that, we think we can build a really strong business model that will allow us to bring, for example, local businesses, connect them to their best customers, their neighbors. And a local business, by the way, doesn't have to be small. A local business can be the shop on the corner, it could be the neighbor for hire, the plumber, but it can be Walmart. You're going to talk to Doug later.
Right.
Walmart is a local business. It's often where people go to meet and congregate. And so if we can build a strong business model that then allows us to keep investing in our purpose, that's when the magic really takes off. And that was what I found with Square, right? Square was a very purpose-driven company, is a very purpose-driven company, right? Economic improvement.
Right.
But the flywheel is what really makes it hum. PayPal, I would say, is in the same boat too. So we absolutely see the color of green, as you call it, John.
Yep.
The color of green, a true business plan, but a business plan that allows us to do good as well. And on your point about community-based policing or just community-based, like how do we get civic engagement, I did a sit-down last week with Mayor Stephen Benjamin out of Columbus, South Carolina. Amazing mayor. One of the most amazing mayors I've ever spoken to because of how he thinks about community. And that is a great example of how we need to get everyone around the table if we're ever going to solve some of our toughest problems, right? John, you know, I grew up in Northern Ireland.
Yep.
So, you know, I grew up in a community that actually was at war. You know,
quite
we didn't
literally.
Riot. We blew people up and like shot them. And the only way we brought peace to our little troubled nation was getting people around the table. The terrorists with the policemen, with the local community activists, with the neighbor.
That's right.
And ultimately we all realized that if we didn't get our act together, our communities weren't going to be the places our children would stay and grow up in. And so that to me was a seminal moment in my life. And I think about it a lot now, sitting here in the United States at a very, tough time for people, but we've got to get them around the table.
Yeah, to paraphrase, I'm not going to get this quote right. I'm sure I'm going to get it very wrong. So, Dr. Bernice King, if you're watching, I apologize for your father's quote I'm about to butcher. But it's something like, we can either gather together as friends or die together as fools. It's something like that. And that's what I heard you say about Northern Ireland. Is what I mean. What I was trying to infer about community is that, everybody wants to be an American, but Americans, like, we just keep picking on each other, like picking at each other, picking on each other, while the rest of the world wants to be us. And we got to find our better angels. We got to find what are we all good at, and how do we share the prosperity. I love that Nextdoor, a for-profit and for-purpose company, continues to do well. We want to vote. All of us should vote for that kind of capitalism to win.
Absolutely.
Because when they win, you win. I mean, that is literally taking it down to the community level.
It's literally doing it together, too.
It's doing it together. And they're trying, this is not done yet, but they're now talking about how do you actually help the struggling family that doesn't have $400 in savings to monetize some of that stuff in the garage.
Right.
How do you...
Don't laugh. I will tell you that business, right? We call it for sale and free, and we actually don't have a business model behind it right now. We just think it's good for communities.
Right.
But we see, sit on your seat, $2 billion per month put on Nextdoor, and that's just the for sale piece.
Per month?
I was going to say, I see people using it, Sarah. I want to tell you, people are using it, at least on my...
Per month?
Yeah.
Per month. And that is just, you're exactly right. That's, you clean out your garage, clean out the cupboard in your bedroom, whatever it is.
Right. It's
a great way to, if you're in the cleaning mode, but it's also a great way, frankly, if you want to make a bit of extra cash. Like, a lot of people are very strapped right now. It's a great way to create extra cash, and it's a great way to help those people in your neighborhood. And we've actually linked it to nonprofits as well. So if I want to sell the thing, like I just sold some old networking equipment that I had in my house because I'm in the eternal hole of making my Wi-Fi work. And I sent all the profits to the local school, the PTA, because you know what, we have a big digital divide, and I want to make sure every kid has a laptop because that's the only way they're getting schooling right now. So there is lots of ways communities can create, these great cycles. And frankly, all we're doing is what people have done for hundreds of years in communities, but we're now lifting it up to be on a technology platform too.
Doing good at scale.
That's right.
Sarah Friar.
We love this, Sarah. We could talk to you for much longer, but we're out of time for today. But it's been fantastic to have this conversation and to talk about Nextdoor, but also to see you. I wanted to talk about women on boards, and we didn't get there. So will you promise to come back?
Next time for sure. And don't forget to neighbor, right? Neighboring is a verb.
Neighbor is a verb. It means action, right? Verbs mean action. Love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank
we
you,
so
Sarah.
appreciate you, Sarah.
Peace and light.
Take care. Appreciate you.